What's going on, everybody? This is Chuck, and you're watching the ITXP Season 10, Episode 1, Season 10. So, if you know anything about me, I try to be consistent, but there are times that I just can't be consistent. Last year was just that, an inopportune time for me to try to do shows, primarily due to work. Back in April of last year, had a big initiative begin in our organization, and it's all around generative AI. So it's a year later, and here we are where AI is everywhere. And I spent most of actually the rest of the half of 2023 focusing on this effort. It was a big effort, and my team was dismantled at the beginning of the year. I had essentially 3 people to help on this effort, engineering wise at least, and architecture wise, and then the other folks were ops guys who, unfortunately, couldn't step up to the plate in order to help drive some of these changes. But what they were able to do is they were able to take ownership on some of the more operational work, and it benefited everyone at the end of the day. So last year was a bit of a shit show for me. Didn't have the opportunity to complete some of the shows and episodes I wanted to do. I just scrapped that year off. I said, forget it. I'm done. And it's a new day, right? It's 2023. And the theme of this episode is we all are on our own journey. Everybody's journey is different. Ultimately, some of you are probably like, it's 2024. I want to do something new. I want to take control of my own life. What can I do? I'm searching out for something, right? And maybe technology is the way to go. Maybe it's not. Maybe I go back to school. Maybe it's not. If you've seen some of my previous episodes, I've talked through some of the competencies within technology that may appeal to you and may not appeal to you. Are certifications valid? Is education valid? All that is out there. But what I'm here to tell you is the first thing you need to do is set a goal and commit to achieving that goal. And the goal can be something as little as, in 30 days, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Right? So this is what we call SMART, right? It's I forgot what smart stands for. It was on the tip of my tongue. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Right. So, if you're gonna set a goal, make sure you use that SMART methodology. It's January 2nd of 2024, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. But all I know is I do these episodes when I feel like I have something of value to say. And I wanted to start off this year with just personal development, personal growth. I feel that that's something that, in the grand scheme of things, that's always something I wanted to portray as of value from these shows. And I've lost track here and there. Because I was still trying to find my own way. And having gone through some of the challenges that I went through last year and some of the objectives and goals that I did complete last year, I felt like it was important for me to, along the lines of technology, to continue down the path that I started back in my first episode. Really a brain dump of everything I've gone through in this industry, information technology, or technology in general, and help those try to understand what it means to work in this industry. I felt like early on I did get a lot of that out, but as I grew in my career and I continued to progress forward in my career, I just didn't feel like I was adding any more value. And I just started coming up with different things that I was interested in, right? So you saw me putting some Fortnite map creations up last year, and I was actually going to continue doing that, showing the progress of creating maps in Fortnite, because I do still firmly believe that that is a platform that can be available to anyone. It has a lower barrier to entry for those that want to do this. Unfortunately, because my day job took over, consumed the rest of my year, I didn't have that opportunity to do that. Because it does take time. If you think about it, when you're trying to be creative, when you're trying to build something out of nothing, or in this case, build something with assets that are already created, you still need that creativity to spend time and focus on things. And as much as I've wanted to do that, it really wasn't aligning with the goals that I had for myself at the end of that year. I think in the long term, if I chunk away at it, it'll achieve something that I've always wanted to do, but it's not going to satisfy the needs of my immediate needs to sustain an income for my family. That's pretty much it, right? Why do we do all this? For the most part, we do all this to provide a lifestyle for yourself or your family, right? Especially if you're older like me, you may have a family. You may not. I'm not judging, right? But at the end of the day, we're looking for some income to sustain our lifestyles, to provide for our family. You may be here thinking about trying to get into this industry with no experience whatsoever. Perhaps you're working in the trades. Perhaps you're an educator and want to move into technology, or perhaps you're in another corporate position and want to move into technology. Whatever your place in life is right now, just know that it can be done as long as you put a goal together and then action on that goal. So at the beginning of the year of 2023, I set some goals down, right? I set some goals down, health goals, which I did actually hit in the middle of 2023. And then as soon as I went on my vacation, it went downhill from there. But I did hit my goal. I also hit a goal to pass the certification exam, which I will get to in a few seconds. And then my last goal was to actually begin and complete another master's degree at WGU. So go back to my WGU MBA video, listen to that, watch that, see how I progressed through that. I now signed up and did register for the Master of Science in Management and Leadership at WGU, which is only 7 courses, and I completed 4 already by the end of the year. Something that, again, my goal was to complete 1 course a month because it's only 7 courses. I figured in a 6-month term, you pay for a term, and however many courses you complete in that term, that's what you pay for. If you can't complete all your courses within that term, you'll have to pay for another term. But my goal is I want to complete everything within that term. So October I started, I passed the course. November I started, I passed the course. December I started, I passed 2 courses, right? So now I'm at 4. So I have 3 courses left. So now, from now until March, which is the end of my term, I should be able to complete the next 3 courses. And the last course is the capstone, which is, if you've ever been in an advanced degree program, a capstone is a pretty big deal. It's a lot of work. So I did achieve my goals in 2023. Like I said, with my health, again, that's going to be a challenge throughout my entire life. But I've been chunking away at those goals throughout my life. This year I said, what am I going to do, right? What am I going to do? I really need to figure out what it is I want from my career, first and foremost. Secondly, I want to figure out what I need to do in terms of the next step for my family life, because times are changing. My kids are getting older. What is it that I need to do to ensure that I enable my kids to go to college without the struggles that I went through, right? I had to fund my own college. I dropped out and things like that. And also prepare them for the future because work as we know it today is going to change. So I said, well, what haven't I done that I've always wanted to do or that I set out to do previously that I should complete in 2023 in terms of career? I said, you know what? I tried to take the CISSP exam in 2019 and I failed it. So I said, this year I'm going to pass the exam. So in July of last year, of 2023, I decided that I'm going to actually make a concerted effort with everything else that's going around. And with me deciding to start up another master's program, I am going to actually pass this exam. So in December of 2023, I finally passed the CISSP. It was a big relief, load off my shoulders, and I was ecstatic. I was happy. I was like, look, I finally did it. It was something that I wanted to do back in 2024. And you figure that was 4 years ago, right? Because it was October 29th of 2019 that I failed that exam. Before the pandemic and everything, right? I failed that exam in 2019. But I did pass it. And I said, well, what am I going to do with this, right? Am I going to continue the path that I'm going down now in the cloud journey, or do I pivot? Do I pivot into security? Because I've had 25 plus years in infrastructure, 2 years in the cloud. What do I do with the CISSP? So I said, you know what? Now that I'm getting older, I do have to worry about ageism because it is a thing. I do have to worry about the cost to an organization, right? Where my cost now to an organization is a lot higher than somebody the same age just starting out or maybe 5 years into their career, right? My cost is a lot higher. Because again, if you've been in the trades, because I know a lot of people that work in trades, I know how it works. The more experience you have, the more knowledge you bring, right? Because you've seen a lot more. So while in technology, it may be a little bit skewed because you may be younger than me or even be the same age as me and come in with a niche expertise, AI, machine learning, whatever, you may be at a higher value, but what you can deliver may be a lot less than what I can deliver, right? And again, I'm just using hypotheticals at this point because everybody's situation is different. So I said, well, what am I going to do? Because I need to figure it out. So that's my goal for this year is figuring out what I need to do. And hopefully you'll come along this journey with me because I think ultimately we all need to figure out what it is that we want to do, especially in this new age of generative AI, in where you have artificial intelligence creating things for you. So everybody knows about ChatGPT. Everybody knows about Bard, and I'm actually going to go into some of those things in a few minutes around the differences between the two, because I think it's critical to understand some of the tools that are out there and how you can leverage them. Look, I'm not that flashy person that says, hey, use generative AI or ChatGPT to make $10 million. No. Oh, you can, use ChatGPT to win the Powerball. No, you probably, maybe, I don't know, but that's not me, right? That's not how I live my life. I spent the better part of my 20s trying to chase that money-making scheme. And I'll never forget this because I had just dropped out of college. It was 1997. Right, I just dropped out of college. I was working at a loading dock in a trucking company, and I said, I got to get my act together. I got to figure something out. So I read a book by Robert Allen called Multiple Streams of Income. And I'll never forget this book because, again, the internet wasn't as it is today, but he was talking about leveraging internet strategy. And it may not have been 97. It may have been early, maybe 2000, 2001. It may have been that way. I'm just, again, as you get older, dates just kind of are, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what dates are. Um, but let's say around 2000, right? I was in my mid 20s, and I was like, I got to figure things out, and I got to understand what's out there. I read this book, Multiple Streams of Income. He talked about various ways to make money, and a lot of it was about the internet marketing. But there was also multi-level marketing in there, and I just did not buy into that. I did not buy into that. And they're like, well, Chuck, you probably would have made some good money if you followed it. I probably would. I did start looking at some of the things that he was talking about. At that point in time, he was talking about buying deeds that were potentially going into foreclosure, just paying off the taxes on those, and then assuming those deeds, which is actually a big market. But in New Jersey, in the state I'm at, it's a very close knit, tight market, and where you know only certain people can actually do that. And those were the things that I was uncovering as I was trying to understand some of these things that this person was saying. Maybe in different markets it was better, but I focused my time in my mid 20s to just really enjoying life, right? I really didn't set out to kind of save or anything like that. I just enjoyed life. I lived my life because that's not what my parents were doing, right? They were continuously working, and they brought me here. Well, not they didn't bring me here. I was born here. They came to this country to make a better life for their children. And I'm your typical American kid, right? Even though we have a distorted view of what America is supposed to be, for me it's being able to do whatever I want within the confines of the law, and enjoy life, right? And make a living. Some people are finding that challenging today. They're finding that challenging, and I can understand that, because I'm at a point now in where I'm at the tail end of my viable career, right? And my kids are going into their life, right? They're teenagers, so they have to figure out what it is that they need to do. Do they go to college? Right? That's a big discussion in the house. Do they even go to college? And I'm floored by that. I'm like, I told myself, I was like, did I mess up as a parent because my kids aren't gung ho about going into college? My kids know I dropped out of college, but they also know that I went back, right? So what is it? Do they go to college, or do they go into trades? Ultimately, I told my oldest, I was like, here's the deal. You have this idea of what you want to do. Do you need to go to college for that? No, you don't. Is it better if you do? Possibly. But at the end of the day, by the time you're 26, you need to figure out how you're going to get insurance, health insurance. Plain and simple. You need to figure out how to get health insurance, because I can only sustain you on my health insurance till 26, unless the law changes. So these are real discussions I'm having with my 14-year-old. Plain and simple, right? And my 13-year-old's there too. She's listening in. But the focus is on my 14-year-old, because she really has this mindset of what she wants to do. And my wife's like, well, you need to go to college. And I'm like, hold on a second. Does she really need to? Right? And as smart as my daughter is, she doesn't, school doesn't appeal to her. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her, because school today isn't the same school that it was when I was in high school in the 90s, right? 90 to 94. It seems like it's a completely different world. Now, it may be the area I'm in. I don't know. I just feel like it's way more regimented and way more structured than what I remember. Now, I wasn't a goof off. I was in honors classes and things like that, right? I think I graduated 30th out of my class of 175. So, I wasn't the top, but, I would say I was like an average smart kid. I don't even know how to say it, right? But knowledge came easy to me, right? Same thing with my oldest. The knowledge comes easy to her, but she just doesn't want to focus on it, right? Because she wants to focus on the arts and being creative, which I applaud because I think we need a lot more people to be creative. But can you make money, or can you maintain a lifestyle that she's accustomed to now with being creative? We don't know, right? And somebody like, well, what are you talking about? You know, you have YouTube, you have TikTok, you have this and that. But think about some of the things. And I was listening to, oh, because I play Fortnite a lot, right? I was listening to the streamer Ninja. If you don't know who Ninja is, very popular streamer, became famous early on in his YouTube career, whatever, right? Twitch career. But I was listening to him, and he was talking about some of the algorithms that YouTube is using to attract people. And he's like, you have to do stupid things like, use misleading titles and thumbnails that that will attract people and things like that. It's like, is that really worth it going forward, right? Because it's not really being creative, right? Because now all you're doing is you're you're building towards the algorithm, right? And you'll see that, right? You'll see that from other famous YouTubers or people that are starting out. They're building towards the algorithm, and me, I don't give a shit, right? I've always said this. If you listen to this, great. If you don't, okay. If you want to comment on this, or if you want to steal this entire platform, I've said this before, time and time again. If you think you can do this better than I can, go for it. The internet is so vast that even the 100 people that I have downloading this, whether they listen to it or not, great. Or the 300 people, I haven't even looked at the numbers lately, right? Because I haven't posted anything in a year, almost a year at this point, if you really think about it. But I don't subscribe to that, right? I feel like as long as I'm consistent, which I'm not, but as long as you're consistent in making the content, do you really want to build towards the algorithm? I don't know. I don't know. And now with artificial intelligence, it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't even matter, because if I continue to build content that is somewhat similar to what you are already consuming, will I show up in your algorithm without having to do all these fancy things? And that's going to be my goal for 2024, right? Be consistent with this show, continue creating content around the topics of technology, as it pertains to a career, to a profession, right? Be consistent with it and see if I can get into those algorithms without having to play those games about the fancy little thumbnails or the flashy titles and things like that. I don't know. Right? I don't know, and it's one of the things that I'm going to have to continue working on as I go down this journey, because this is a journey. This has always been a journey for me. This is nothing that was going to replace my career, and I've always said this before. I'm going to never charge for anything like that, as far as putting out content, because at least on this channel, because it doesn't make sense. If you followed me, I think maybe when ChatGPT first came out, I created a separate channel that I was working on with my children, just to show them how to build a brand, and they kind of like, it was boring for them, right? Maybe because I was working on it with them, but they just didn't really subscribe to trying to build a brand or anything like that. But ultimately, I think for this year, my goal is to, within the next 12 months, right? So it's January now. By the end of 2024, I want to have at least 50 episodes out. That's 50 episodes out, covering topics within the technology profession, right? And try not to venture out into some of the things that I was doing last year or the year prior to that, right? It's really ensuring that I focus on the topic at hand and walk through my journey on navigating this profession as an older professional, right? Because now I'm older, right? So as I do that, I hope you join me on that journey, because I'm now looking at, in addition to completing my degree by March, I'm looking at pivoting careers into the cybersecurity space because obviously I did my CISSP. I signed up for the CISM at the end of this month in January, so I'll be taking that at the end of this month, and then seeing what I want to go, where I want to go from there. I've always leaned more towards the GRC world because as an older professional, I think I have enough experience and exposure to the many facets of technology that I could potentially find a good kind of career riding off into the sunset. As you see behind me, it is a sunrise, but it could also be a sunset. You don't know. But, you know, either way, I have to find something where I can continue growing as a professional in the cybersecurity space. So that's essentially my goals, and I hope you follow me on this journey. So let's get back to the generative AI because I think it's going to be key in terms of the way you progress in your career, right? And the two I've been using obviously are ChatGPT and lately Bard. And I want to demonstrate the two differences. And now some of you may already have ChatGPT, and there's plenty of information out there that you can find in terms of resources that will help you figure out prompt engineering and things like that. But I just want to show you, because it is January 2nd, 2024, it's a new year, a lot of people are going to be seeking out ways to improve themselves, right? Ways to get ahead and things like that. So if we go into ChatGPT here, so this is ChatGPT 4. I didn't add any plugins. This is a new way of doing things. Now the new model here actually gives you two options. I picked the first option, but I'll show you the other responses. I just said, hey, it's 2024 and I'd like to prepare for improving my personal performance and knowledge. What are some resources that I can improve my daily mindset? In addition, how can I improve my health throughout 2024? Very basic prompt. Very, very basic prompt. And you can tailor this to leveraging, acting as like Arnold Schwarzenegger or acting as Warren Buffett or whomever, Tony Robbins and things like that. And you'll probably get more detailed answers. But if this is your first foray into prompt engineering, this is a very basic prompt. But you can get a lot more detailed. The more specific you are, the better responses you'll get. But right now, this is pretty basic, right? And it says, all right, improving performance. I'm going to give you some books. You take some online courses. Meditation is going to be key here. And I think mental health is going to be important throughout your entire career and even life. But let's focus on career. If you can't get your mental health in line, you're going to have a problem. And I did an episode about mental health and IT. I'll link it here in the notes below. It's an audio version. Remember, I started off this show as an audio version. But mental health is going to be key in any career, really. But in your life in general, it's going to be key. It also talks about some podcasts and then goes into health improvement, exercise, sleep hygiene, which is key. I downloaded an app at the tail end of last year called Auto Sleep on my iPhone because I have the Apple Watch, and it really gives me some insightful information around how I sleep. Obviously, regular health checkups, online learning platforms, communities, and general tips. Right. So, here goes smart goals. Right. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, right? So these are some of the general tips. Journaling is going to be key as well. Time management and staying informed, keeping up. So this is one of two. So if I go into the second one, right? So it gave you two different responses, and this was the more generic response, right? You can look for books on personal development and things like that. So now if you're a member of, if you subscribe to ChatGPT Pro, you'll be able to get this. I think some of the the memberships were paused, but you have other options. My second favorite is Bard. I typed in the same thing. Let me zoom in here. Apologies. Right. So it said same exact prompt, right, as before, right? Same exact prompt. So, and it said, gave you some books. Here's some resources. Mindset, Atomic Habits. Look, where's it? Oh, let me go back down here. So, Mindset, Atomic Habits, right? It's like the same exact thing. The Power of Now. It's like because these were all built on the same language model. It seems like, right? Tim Ferriss show, it's like meditation, right? All these things are practically the same, right? And one of the things that I found in terms of the differences between ChatGPT and Bard, right, is some of the things that Bard returns in terms of prompts seem to be a lot more free flowing, right? And I'll show you. And again, here, remember, consistency is key, and that's going to be my my mantra for this year. Consistency is key. But I was also using Bard in terms of leveraging for some of the work that I was doing for my master's class, just to see, right? So I said, can you define organizational communication in my presentation, right? And it gave me some prompts that I actually leveraged for a presentation I was doing because I was in a rut. And I think one of the things you'll find with these generative AI models is that it will actually help you break out of your rut. Get what you have in the back of your mind, dump it, question out here, and it'll actually tell you, right? And I think you'll see here the differences, right? So I'll type this into ChatGPT, right? So I said, hey, can you define organizational communication to use in my presentation? Because I had a slide about organizational communication, and I knew what the definition was, but I needed something catchy to put on my slide, so as I was presenting it, I could talk through what the definition was, right? So it said, here's some simple, clear things. Here's a little bit more academic, and then here's specific to your presentation. You can do that. But if I type it into ChatGPT, let's see if it'll actually, right? So it'll come with a response like this, right? So I find that ChatGPT, here's a way that may work for some of you people in terms of the differences between the two. If you're as old as I am and you remember the Mac versus PC advertisements, I feel like ChatGPT is PC and Bard is Mac, right? It's kind of the sleeker, sexier, kind of more creative type responses that I'm looking for, whereas ChatGPT is be like, oh, you want a definition of organizational communication? Boom, 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 boom. Here you go. Take it, and do with it what you want, right? So I feel like that's a difference. When I need something to be a little bit more creative, I tend to focus more on Bard because it's giving me a little bit more, right? So look, I said, hey, rewrite the following so I can use it as my speaker notes, right? So I typed this up and I said, I want it in my speaker notes, right? And I said, and it broke down some of the things that I can use. Ultimately, I used some of these things, reworded it, but it was my idea, right? But the language models will be able to help you break out of that rut, break out of that mindset. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to be thinking. Well, shit, I'll just have this write my paper for you. Go for it. Do it. And then once you do it, I'm going to show you, and I'm looking for it here, I'm going to show you GPT detectors. Right? I'm going to show you GPT detectors, and I'm going to say, hey, right? Oh, God. Right? Write me something, write a paragraph on organizational communication, right? Or I can actually take this. I'll just take this. And I'll put it in here, right? And I'll just search for it, right? Let me delete some of this stuff, right? Let me delete some of this stuff, and then check for AI content. As like, it reads like AI, right? And then even if I say, okay, let me go back to Bard, right? Like, well, I'm going to use Bard because you said Bard was a little bit more friendlier. So I'm going to say, okay. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go into Bard. I'm going to say rewrite this paragraph to read less like it was generated by AI. Right? So I'm going to paste this. And I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go boop, boop, boop. Right? I'm going to go, all right, let's try to fake these guys out. Right? So it's going to process some of these things. And it's going to say, oh, here you go. And look at it. It says it's trying to write it. So, right? So if I copy this. You guys can fast forward this if you want. But if I copy this and I go, all right, let me go to this AI detector. And I go back here and I go back here. Check for AI content. Passes as a human. Right? So you can leverage, and there are plenty of GPT detectors out there. So if I go to GPT-0 and I paste plain text here and I do check origin, this text is likely to be written up by AI, right? So you'll have to, if you want to go that route, and you're like, look, I want to get my degree, I want to figure out, what the hell? Oh, it probably had something there that I was doing before. So if I go here and I'm going to just, again, I want to show you the differences, right? There's many GPT detectors out there, but I want to show you the differences between the three, right? This was, look, 94% was generated by AI model, right? Because it's going to, they're learning, they're teaching you. So don't get into the mindset of I'm going to have GPT write everything for me. I'm going to have Bard write everything for me. No, leverage it as another tool to help you break through some of those blockers that you may have to either starting something, whether it's going to be a paragraph or they're going to be an email, right? I've leveraged GPT for email creations, as I need to write an email to C-level folks about this topic, and then I had it spit out the first paragraph. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna write, and then just change it up, and then actually, wipe out what it said, and it just sparked the ability for me to come up with stuff. So don't get into that mindset that you're gonna start using this for everything, and I know a lot of people have, right? So much so that Google, I think I said this before, they're starting to rank your web page lower because you've used generated AI to become to write your blog post. And I think even one of these, right? I think it's AI detector. Content scale. They can actually. They said that they can rewrite everything to be not detected by AI. I don't know about that, right? Because if you saw what Bard did, right, it's trying to be a little bit more human-like, and I believe that that's what Content Scale is doing as well. But I haven't looked into it. There's a cost to that, obviously, but if you're trying to leverage AI for your blog post or whatever, just be careful because there's GPT detectors out there and things like that. I think in the future, you're going to see that things created by humans may be ranked higher than things created by AI. I don't know. But my whole point here is that, yes, these tools are out there, but remember, they're tools for you to use to improve what you already know, or even teach you things that you may not know, right? So again, just be careful with what you're doing with this. Don't just go in there and buy into the hype about certain things, because it's all popular on TikTok. I'm making $22,000 a second on using AI and things like that. No, it doesn't work that way. It really takes time, and effort to generate money, to create wealth. Whether it's creating things with Dolly, Mid Journey, or things like that. You need to put the time and effort, and that really goes back to the first part of this. Set a goal and what you want to accomplish this year, and stick to it. Be consistent. Break it up into chunks. By the end of 2024, I want to be here. Well, how do you get there, right? How do you measure your success to get there? What's a timeline for you to get there, right? What specifically do you need to do to get to that point? Write it down, right? Journal it. Set up a calendar or whatever, right? Go that route, and believe me, you'll find your when you look back at 2024, it'll be December 31st, and you look back, and you're like, damn, I did a lot more than I thought I was capable of doing. And you can do this, right? You can be successful at what you want to do. You just need to get out of your head and just write it down and say, this is what I want to do, and stick to it. Tell your family, tell your friends, right? If you want to quit drinking, you want to cut back on partying, whatever, tell your people, your circle. Hopefully you have a circle that's what you want to do, and you'll see that you'll be successful, right? I don't think I would have been this successful if I kept it all to myself. If I didn't tell people what my goals were, right? One of the things that you'll find as you develop these skills, right? Because these are skills that you're developing. One of these skills that you're developing over time will improve over time. You'll get better, and a lot of this stuff will come naturally to you. And then maybe one day you'll find that you're being an influence to someone else, whether it's your kids, your spouse, your partner, whatever. Then they'll look to you and say, hey, how'd you do this and how'd you do that? And you can build your own little community on showing what you did to get successful or to improve, right? Because success is different for everyone, right? Somebody making $22,000 a minute on TikTok, right, could be a fallacy. I've seen them. I see them all the time, and it's horseshit. Whether they do that or not, it's not easy, right? It's not easy because you have to be consistent. So don't fall into that hype of easy. Remember the 7 streams of income, multiple streams of income that Robert Allen told me. Yes, you should have multiple streams of income. At the end of the day, going back to that book, what I learned was you shouldn't just have one stream of income. You should have multiple streams of income, right? Well, whatever they are, that's for you to decide, right? Whether it's investments in the stock market, real estate, whatever. You should have multiple streams of income. You can't just have one, right? So that's what I took away from that book. But whatever it is that you learn and understand, things like that, that's what you should continue going for. That's what you should continue striving to become. Use 2024 as your launch pad to move forward, to progress ahead. Set the SMART goals. Specific, measurable, right? Attainable, relevant, and time based, right? Because you'll find that you'll be successful. I always said, and I told my kids this, because I said I need to find a new job, right? And my daughters are like, why are you finding a new job? I was like, well, I think I've grown out of my current role. And I said, give me till the end of this year for me to find a new job. And they're like, why that long? And I'm like, well, because again, I'm already at the top of my game at this company. I either have to make a decision to go up again or go parallel or maybe go back down, right? And if I go back down, that may potentially hit, the money belt, right? So it's one of those things where, everybody's level of success, a measurement of success is different. So define what yours is and start working towards it. You can't just sit there and being hemming and hawing, flipping through TikTok, or Instagram or things like that, looking at guys shake their ass or showing off their abs, or women showing off their ass and boobies, right? You have to move away from that. Change your mindset and you will change your life. And I didn't want to be a personal development speaker, but here I am. So good luck in 2024, and I'll see you next week.